Sarah Callahan was born in 1989 and raised in a middle-class family in Hartford, Connecticut. Her father, Michael, taught high school history, while her mother, Elizabeth, worked as a nurse. Sarah was the youngest of two siblings, with her older brother, Jason, being 3 years ahead of her. From a young age, Sarah stood out for her sharp intellect and determination to achieve. She thrived in school, especially in subjects like English and debate. Her teachers frequently noted her skill in breaking down complicated issues and expressing her ideas with clarity. This talent would later become crucial in her career and in confronting the mystery that would dominate her life. However, Sarah's childhood wasn't without difficulties. At the age of 14, she faced the turmoil of her parents' contentious divorce. The divorce deeply affected Sarah, leaving her with a strong fear of betrayal and a resolve to create a stable, loving family in the future. To escape the chaos at home, she immersed herself in her studies, using academic achievements as a means of coping. Her dedication paid off when she earned a partial scholarship to attend Yale University. At Yale, Sarah pursued a communications major with a minor in psychology, captivated by how people connect and communicate. During her sophomore year, she crossed paths with David Thompson, a senior majoring in business administration, at a campus mixer. David was instantly attracted to Sarah's sharp intellect and friendly demeanor. Their relationship grew rapidly. David's drive and self-assurance blended well with Sarah's thoughtfulness and intelligence. By the time Sarah graduated, they were already discussing plans for marriage. 2 years later, they were married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family. After college, Sarah's marketing career flourished. She had an innate ability to understand consumer behavior and create persuasive campaigns that resonated with people. By the time she turned 30, Sarah had become a marketing executive at a leading advertising firm in Hartford. Despite her professional success, she and David faced challenges in fulfilling their dream of starting a family. They had always envisioned having children, but over the years, their attempts were met with the heartbreak of infertility. The struggle with infertility took a heavy emotional toll, but Sarah believed it strengthened their bond. In the early years, their marriage was full of excitement, shared aspirations, and a sense of partnership. They leaned on each other, facing life's challenges together with what seemed to be unwavering support, or so Sarah thought. They purchased a cozy 4-bedroom colonial house, dreaming of filling it with children. Weekends were dedicated to home renovations, visits to local farmers markets, and hosting dinner parties for their expanding group of friends. David's job as a management consultant required frequent business trips, which often kept him away for several days. At first, Sarah struggled with the time apart but eventually adjusted. She occupied her days with work, yoga, and volunteering at the local animal shelter. When David was home, they cherished their time together, enjoying romantic getaways or cozy nights in with wine and a movie. Their friends frequently remarked on how deeply in love Sarah and David still appeared. Even after years of marriage, they completed each other's sentences, shared laughter over private jokes, and consistently showed a strong, united front. They were seen as the ideal couple by those around them. Over time, subtle shifts began to affect their relationship. David's business trips grew more frequent and prolonged. When he was home, he seemed preoccupied, frequently checking his phone or stepping away to take calls. Sarah chalked it up to job stress and tried to be supportive. However, the first significant crack in their seemingly perfect marriage surfaced on their 10th wedding anniversary. David, who had always made a point of celebrating their anniversaries, completely forgot the date. David was away on a business trip and didn't call until late in the evening. When Sarah reminded him of the anniversary, he was apologetic but seemed preoccupied. It was a minor incident, but it planted a seed of doubt in Sarah's mind. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon in April, Sarah took a half-day off work to get ready for a dinner party they were hosting that weekend. It was then that she stumbled upon something unexpected that would set off a chain of events, unraveling the life she thought she knew. In the guest room closet, Sarah discovered a shoebox she didn't recognize. When she opened it, she found items that made her heart race with unease. The contents included photographs and mementos that seemed out of place, suggesting secrets that David had kept hidden. Among the items in the shoebox were a second cell phone, a few birthday and Father's Day cards addressed to Daddy in childish handwriting, and several photos of David with a woman and 2 young children Sarah didn't recognize. As she examined the photos, her hands trembling, she saw David looking happy and at ease, with his arms around a striking brunette and the children, all seemingly enjoying time together. The two children, a boy around 7 and a girl about 5, beamed at the camera, their faces filled with joy. The backdrop in several photos appeared to be a house, not a hotel room or vacation spot. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to piece together the unsettling discovery. The realization hit her hard. The children were too young for an old relationship, and the most recent Father's Day card was from just the previous year. Sarah's heart sank as she faced the uncomfortable truth she had been subconsciously avoiding. David had been leading a double life. As Sarah turned on the second phone, she discovered it was still active. Her hands trembled as she browsed through its contents, uncovering messages and call logs that confirmed her worst fears. There were texts and photos exchanged between David and the woman, detailing their plans and daily life with the children. It was clear that David had been maintaining a separate life, one he had kept hidden from her. The text messages between David and Jennifer were intimate and revealing. They included details about school plays, doctor's appointments, and family vacations, painting a picture of a life that was completely separate from the one Sarah knew. Each message felt like a betrayal, deepening the wound in her heart as she realized the extent of David's deceit. Jennifer Lawrence's social media profile, though largely private, provided enough details for Sarah to confirm her suspicions. Photos of Jennifer, with the two children from the shoebox, matched the descriptions and appearances from the messages. Sarah's heart sank as she pieced together the full extent of David's secret life. Sarah felt a storm of emotions: betrayal, anger, and deep sadness. The evidence revealed a life David had carefully hidden, a second family he had maintained while deceiving her. The check-ins and posts exposed the double life he had led, and Sarah grappled with the overwhelming truth of his deceit. The discovery was devastating. Sarah spent hours examining David's credit card statements, uncovering recurring charges in Columbus that he had claimed were business-related. Each new piece of evidence only deepened her sense of betrayal and disillusionment. The life she thought she had, the husband she believed she knew, had been nothing more than an elaborate deception. Sarah unearthed a hidden bank account with regular transfers to Jennifer's account. As darkness enveloped the room, Sarah sat alone in the dimly lit living room, surrounded by the evidence of her husband's betrayal. The home that had once been her haven now felt tainted, and every cherished memory was overshadowed by the painful truth. Sarah faced a daunting decision: confront David, consult a lawyer, or reach out to Jennifer. Unbeknownst to her, her discoveries were only the beginning. The choices she made in the days ahead would trigger a series of events with far-reaching and potentially tragic consequences for everyone involved in this web of deception. As Sarah continued her investigation, she uncovered more details about David's double life. Jennifer Lawrence, 34, worked as a pediatric nurse at Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. David and Jennifer had met 8 years prior during a lengthy consulting project David had in Columbus. Their relationship quickly intensified, leading to Jennifer's pregnancy within months. Instead of confronting the reality of his situation, David chose to maintain a double life, balancing his commitments to both women. He told Jennifer that his work required frequent travel between Columbus and Hartford, which conveniently explained his extended absences. To sustain the ruse, David bought a modest house in a Columbus suburb through an LLC, which served as a home for his second family. Jacob and Emily were led to believe that their father's frequent absences were due to his demanding job as a pilot, a story David had crafted to explain his extended trips. To Jennifer and the kids, David was a devoted family man who tried to be present despite his demanding career. Sarah couldn't help but compare her life with Jennifer's. While she and David lived in a spacious, well-appointed home, Jennifer and the children had a smaller, cozier house. Where Sarah and David attended glamorous corporate events, Jennifer's social media depicted a life filled with children's birthday parties, little league games, and family barbecues. The contrast between the two lives David led was striking. With Sarah, he was the ambitious, polished executive. Family photos showed him in tailored suits at charity galas and on exotic vacations, but his life with Jennifer was depicted through more relaxed and casual moments: David in jeans and t-shirts, building sandcastles and pushing swings. Sarah couldn't shake the thought that this other life, this other version of David, might be more genuine than the one she had known. Had their entire marriage been just a performance? The David she knew would never have seemed satisfied with the simple domestic life he had with Jennifer. Or had she never truly known him at all? As Sarah delved deeper into David's secret life, her emotions oscillated between anger, heartbreak, and an unsettling curiosity. She began to wonder about Jennifer, trying to understand the woman who had been living the life David had promised to her. Sarah grappled with a whirlwind of emotions. She wondered if Jennifer was another victim caught in David's web of deception, or if she had been complicit in the lies all along. The thought of the children, innocent and unaware, added another layer of complexity to her situation. Confronting David would not only address her own pain, but also risk unraveling the lives of two young children who had been caught in the middle of this tangled deception. The gravity of her situation weighed heavily on her, making the decision of how to proceed feel overwhelmingly difficult. After struggling with her thoughts for days, Sarah realized she could no longer live in denial. She needed to get answers directly from David. She picked a Friday evening, when he was scheduled to come back from a business trip, to confront him. Sarah spent the day anxiously preparing for their confrontation, going over her words and anticipating David's reactions. When David arrived home at 7 p.m., his cheerful greeting faded when he saw Sarah sitting stiffly on the living room couch, with the shoebox and other evidence spread out on the coffee table. The color drained from his face as he grasped that his carefully maintained facade was about to unravel. "Sarah, we need to talk," David said, his voice unsteady. Sarah's gaze was piercing as she replied, "I know about Jennifer and the kids." Her voice wavered, betraying the calm she was trying to maintain. David stood frozen in the doorway, his face a mix of shock and fear. Then, as if snapping into a different mindset, he quickly shifted to damage control. He approached Sarah with his hands outstretched in a calming gesture. "Honey, I can explain. It's not what you think." But Sarah was past the point of calming down. Months of suspicion and days of painful certainty had left her seething. Her anger burst forth as she shouted questions and accusations at David. David stumbled over his words, offering a chaotic mix of excuses and apologies. He claimed it hadn't been his intention to deceive her, that he felt cornered by the situation. He explained that he loved both families, but in different ways. He had always meant to end things with Jennifer, but was overwhelmed when the children were born. As the argument escalated, Sarah saw a shift in David. His initial shock and remorse transformed into a cold, calculating demeanor. When Sarah mentioned going to Jennifer with the truth, David's demeanor shifted dramatically. His voice hardened, taking on a menacing tone as he warned her to carefully consider her next move. In that moment, Sarah saw a side of David she had never encountered before. This was no longer the man she had married, the person she believed she knew inside out. Instead, she was facing a stranger, someone who had spent years deceiving everyone around him. For the first time, a flicker of fear began to creep in. The confrontation ended abruptly when David, his face twisted with anger and panic, stormed out of the house. Sarah heard the roar of his car engine as he sped away, leaving her alone in the deafening silence of their home. The remnants of their fractured life lay scattered around her, a stark reminder of the crumbling world she now faced. In the immediate aftermath of the confrontation, Sarah was overwhelmed by a profound sense of numbness. She wandered through the house in a daze, shifting between outbursts of tears and an unsettling calm. She called in sick to work and spent days in a haze, barely eating or sleeping, consumed by the relentless replay of their confrontation in her mind. David didn't come back home. Initially, Sarah thought he might have gone to Jennifer, either to warn her or to choose his other family over his life with Sarah. But as days went by with no contact from David, no charges on their joint credit cards, and no activity on his main cell phone, a new worry began to creep in. Where was David? What was he planning? The man she had confronted was not the David she knew, and she had no idea what he might be capable of. As the silence dragged on, Sarah's concern deepened into fear. She had kept the details of the confrontation and her discoveries to herself, unsure of who to trust or what to do next. Now, with David missing and her world in disarray, Sarah understood she couldn't keep the dangerous secret to herself any longer. Her decision to reveal what she knew would soon trigger a series of events with far-reaching and unforeseen consequences. 5 days after their confrontation, with David still absent, Sarah finally chose to break her silence. Sarah met Emma at a quiet cafe, her nerves frayed as she prepared to share the painful truth. Over coffee, she recounted everything: David's double life, the secret family, the confrontation. Emma listened in shock, her face paling as the enormity of David's deception sank in. Emma's initial shock gave way to urgency. Believing David's disappearance was a serious matter, she urged Sarah to contact the police. Reluctant due to the fear of public exposure, Sarah ultimately agreed, realizing the gravity of the situation demanded immediate action. Detective Michael Lawson, a seasoned investigator known for his success with intricate cases, took Sarah's report seriously. He listened carefully as Sarah detailed the events leading up to David's vanishing, taking note of every significant detail. The discovery of David's secret family prompted immediate concern from Detective Lawson. Jennifer Lawrence, initially stunned by the news, was reluctant to speak but eventually cooperated with the police. Her account depicted David as a devoted partner and father, someone who had never hinted at a double life. Detective Lawson's investigation revealed additional discrepancies in David's life. Financial records showed significant unexplained transactions, and colleagues noted that some of David's reported business trips did not match company records. The investigation took a crucial turn when David Thompson's car was discovered abandoned in a parking garage at Bradley International Airport. Security footage revealed David entering the garage, but there were no cameras capturing his departure, adding another layer of mystery to his disappearance. The discovery of David's abandoned car at the airport deepened the enigma surrounding his disappearance. It raised questions about whether he had fled the country, was hiding out, or if something more sinister had happened to him. As the investigation progressed, the stress took a visible toll on both Sarah and Jennifer. Sarah, who had once been active in the social scene, withdrew from public life, venturing out only when absolutely necessary. Jennifer, overwhelmed by the situation, took a leave of absence from her job to focus on her children and cope with the mounting stress. The lives of those involved had been irreversibly changed by Sarah's discovery. As the search for David persisted, no one could have anticipated the ominous developments that were about to unfold. As weeks turned into months, Detective Lawson and his team pressed on, unraveling the layers of David Thompson's double life. Their investigation revealed not only the two families but also a tangled web of financial fraud. Interviews with David's colleagues exposed a pattern of discrepancies in his work history and financial records, underscoring the extent of his deception. Simon Reeves, a fellow consultant, recounted several occasions when David claimed to be at client meetings that Reeves knew had never occurred. He had long admired David's skill in securing business deals, but now doubts crept in. He began to question if some of those clients had ever existed at all, wondering just how far David's lies had gone. David's financial records painted an even darker picture. Forensic accountants uncovered a sophisticated Ponzi scheme he had been orchestrating for years. He fabricated consulting contracts, lured in new investors, and used their money to pay off earlier ones, all while pocketing substantial amounts for himself. This elaborate financial deception revealed just how deep his betrayal ran, not only in his personal life but also in his professional world. David's Ponzi scheme explained how he had managed to maintain two households and his extravagant lifestyle. As the extent of his fraudulent activities became public, former friends and business associates found themselves under investigation, with their ties to David raising suspicions. Meanwhile, Sarah, already devastated by the collapse of her marriage, now had to grapple with the harsh reality that her entire life with David had been built on lies and criminal behavior. The man she once trusted had betrayed her in every possible way. Sarah spent countless hours meeting with lawyers, desperate to understand how much trouble she might be in. Even though she had no idea what David had been doing, she couldn't help but wonder if the life she had enjoyed was paid for with stolen money. Across the country in Columbus, Jennifer was also dealing with her own version of the nightmare, trying to make sense of the life she had shared with David. The life Jennifer had built with David, the father of her children, was falling apart. The police questioned her relentlessly, examining every conversation, every moment she had shared with him, hoping to find clues hidden in the years of their relationship. The hardest part for Jennifer was explaining to Jacob and Emily why their father wasn't coming home, and why people were saying hurtful things about him on TV. As the investigation continued, a more detailed timeline of David's final movements came into focus. Security footage from the airport parking garage where his car was found showed David arriving on the night he disappeared, carrying a large duffel bag. However, no footage captured David leaving the garage or entering the airport terminal. This prompted investigators to conduct a thorough search of the entire parking garage, including areas beyond the camera's reach. During this search, they made a grim discovery. Tucked away in a remote corner of the garage, they found a blood-stained duffel bag, the same one David had been seen carrying on the security footage. In a rarely visited stairwell, David's duffel bag was found. Inside it were his wallet, phone, and a handwritten note. The note's contents shocked everyone involved in the case. In the note, David admitted to his fraudulent activities and expressed deep regret for the suffering he had inflicted on both families. He described feeling trapped and overwhelmed by the constant fear of being caught. The note concluded with a chilling declaration. The note ended with a haunting message: "By the time you read this, I'll be gone. It's better this way. I'm sorry for everything." The note shifted the focus of the investigation. Was it a genuine suicide note, or was David using it as part of another elaborate ruse? The absence of his body raised new questions. Had he truly ended his life? Or was this just another layer of his deception, designed to mislead those searching for him? As authorities recalibrated their search efforts, the impact of David's actions continued to reverberate through the lives of those he left behind. 3 months after David vanished, the investigation took a grim turn. The impact of his deceit had already caused widespread upheaval, but the discovery that followed was even more shocking. Simon Reeves, David's colleague, who had reported inconsistencies in David's work history, was found dead at home. Initially, it seemed like a tragic accident. Reeves had apparently fallen down the stairs after a night of heavy drinking. However, some details didn't quite fit. Detective Lawson, now heading a task force focused on the Thompson case and its aftermath, approached the scene with caution. The position of Reeves' body appeared unusual for a typical accidental fall. Moreover, while Reeves was a social drinker, he was not known for overindulgence. Forensic tests revealed traces of a strong sedative in his system, which was not prescribed to him. As the investigation continued, a chilling theory began to emerge. Had someone silenced Reeves to keep him from exposing more about David's fraud? The timing was highly suspicious, as Reeves was set to provide a detailed statement to the police the following day. His death sent shockwaves through the investigation, adding a grim new dimension to the case. Those connected to David, especially those who had been interviewed by police or were scheduled to be, began to feel uneasy. What had begun as a sensational story of deceit had now taken a deadly turn. Sarah, already grappling with anxiety and depression due to David's disappearance, found herself nearly overwhelmed by fear. Jennifer, who had her children to think about, found the fear of potential danger nearly unbearable. She was haunted by the thought that their lives might be at risk because of their connection to David. In response, she took steps to ensure their safety, including enhancing home security and limiting their public outings. Jennifer considered moving and starting fresh, but the ongoing investigation made it impractical. As the police investigated Reeves' death further, they discovered he had been compiling his own dossier on David's activities. Although his home office had been thoroughly searched, a hidden safe was overlooked. Inside the safe, detectives discovered documents indicating that David's fraudulent activities extended beyond their initial findings, possibly involving offshore accounts and organized crime. Simon Reeves' death marked a crucial turning point in the case. What had started as a tale of infidelity and financial misconduct had now escalated into a murder investigation. As the case unfolded, it became clear that the repercussions of David Thompson's deceit were far from over, and more lives were likely to be affected. In the weeks following Simon Reeves' death, fear spread like wildfire among those connected to the David Thompson case. Even with increased police patrols around Jennifer's home, the heightened security did little to ease the tension. Then, ominous threats began to surface. Anonymous notes, cryptic phone calls, and unsettling messages sent to people involved in the case only deepened the sense of unease. It was clear that someone was willing to go to great lengths to keep the truth buried, and no one knew who might be next. Sarah began receiving anonymous phone calls in the dead of night, with nothing but heavy breathing on the other end. Jennifer's car was vandalized, the word liar scratched deep into the paint. David's former boss at the consulting firm was sent a disturbing package, a dead rat wrapped in a plain brown box. The threats, once vague and unsettling, had escalated into direct intimidation. Meanwhile, the investigation into Simon Reeves' death only deepened the mystery. Every new lead seemed to raise more questions than answers. Who was behind these warnings? And just how deep did David Thompson's deception run? With no clear suspects, the police were left scrambling, knowing time was running out to uncover the truth before anyone else got hurt. Footage from the neighborhood's security cameras showed a plain van parked near Reeves' house on the night he died, but the license plate wasn't visible. Neighbors mentioned seeing a man asking questions about Reeves in the days before his death, but their descriptions were unclear and didn't match. As the investigation heated up, the stress started to take a toll on the people involved in the case. Emma, David's sister, had a breakdown at a supermarket, yelling at a cashier she believed was staring at her. Meanwhile, Jennifer's oldest son, Jacob, got suspended from school after fighting with a classmate who teased him about his missing dad. Detective Lawson and his team worked tirelessly, following every possible lead, no matter how minor. They believed that cracking David's financial records would unlock the whole mystery. Yet each time they neared a breakthrough, they faced another setback. The case had become a ticking time bomb, with tensions escalating daily. The second death, 6 weeks after Simon Reeves' murder, hit even closer to home. This time, it wasn't just a colleague or distant connection. This tragedy would shatter the fragile sense of safety surrounding everyone involved. A Truthful Crime Case Solvers. Interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe.